So, Labour has abolished racism. Hooray! A cause for celebration. Keir Starmer has officially defeated anti-Semitism. Now, racism has plagued the world for centuries, yet Keir Starmer ended it in just 3 years. So the whole of the mainstream media, being famous for its progressivism and in no way played a massive role in racism, is praising Keir Starmer. The EHRC has declared that Labour are no longer a special interest. Now, my Twitter feed has become a melting pot of centrist cranks, elite journos, and briefcase Labour types lamenting this sweet victory. Now, of course, all of this is bullshit. Keir Starmer's Labour Party has suspended and expelled more Jewish people in the party's history. That seems like the opposite thing to do in tackling anti-Semitism, just by expelling most of them. Now, it's no surprise that the majority of them are on the left, but we can see transparently what the pattern is here. There should be no diverse thoughts, especially if you are Jewish. If you're on the left or a socialist or a critic of Israel, you don't belong to the party. So a whole community is only accepted if they toe the very fine line of the current party stance. To me, that's pretty fucking anti-Semitic. Now, this proves that the EHRC is a complete sham. When the initial report came out, it was taken seriously. Corbyn said that the recommendations should be adopted in full. I thought the same. But the EHRC has a very questionable past. From 2010, the Commission has had an extremely troubled beginning. Last summer, at least 3 of its 16 commissioners quit in a row over the leadership of the organisation. Trevor Phillips, who previously headed the Commission for Racial Equality, is chair or was of the EHRC, which has not replaced its chief executive since Nicola Brewer left nearly a year ago. Phillips is, or was, separately being investigated by the Standards Committee of both Houses of Parliament after claims he attempted to nobble members of the Human Rights Committee to influence the outcome of the report. That's the same Trevor Phillips who was suspended from the Labour Party in 2020 for saying prejudiced things against Muslims, referring to them as being a nation within a nation. Interestingly, he was readmitted to the party under Keir Starmer. More recently, from 2021, a former employee of Britain's equality watchdog has accused it of failing to support the human rights of ethnic minorities and colluding in the denial of structural and institutional racism. That is quite literally the whole point of the organisation. Then the Ford report came out and contradicted a lot of the statements in the EHRC's investigation of Corbyn's Labour. On top of that, we have reports of the EHRC's transphobia, with many leaving the organisation. 3 whistleblowers still working at the EHRC told Vice World News about an anti-LGBT culture being adopted by senior leaders at the organisation, which is compelling non-executive staff to quit. The recent development from the EHRC shows it is not fit for purpose. The anti-Semitism crisis has been exacerbated under Keir Starmer. If the EHRC had any credibility, then this will be all over the news. The EHRC will be, or should be, conducting another report. Instead, the organisation all seems fine. Now, I feel sorry for the Jewish community. This whole time, their identity has been used for political football by both the left and the right. Now, I'm on the left, and those that deny anti-Semitism altogether need to be ignored. Those on Twitter saying it's all a scam should be very careful in distinguishing that a lot of anti-Semitism was weaponized to denying it altogether, because unfortunately, all too often, that line is blurred. It does exist on the left. However, once again, I reiterate, it's a small minority, and the biggest proponents of the weaponization of it are the Labour right. Now, Keir Starmer should resign, because he defended Jeremy Corbyn in the past, he defended him against anti-Semitism, so according to his current logic, that means Keir Starmer is downplaying it, right? We're starting to see a lot of contradictions here. Now, this is how I see it. This is how I see the whole thing. Racism exists in society as a whole. It will exist for years and years to come, long after I'm dead, long after you're dead watching this. That's the sad reality, but it's true. Even if we break down all racist institutions, there will still be everyday racism. It will still be in our culture. Every single organisation is infected with this. No matter the goodwill of it, no matter the goodwill of the people, it's something that can just go completely unnoticed. It exists in all political parties, including Labour. It always has been. However, what's also true is that some organisations harbour it more than others. Having said that, it still very much exists. It existed long before Jeremy Corbyn, and it will exist long after Keir Starmer and any other future leader. Now, when Jeremy Corbyn was leader, he didn't change the nature of existing members becoming more anti-Semitic, nor did he implement policies that enabled it. What happened was the membership swelled to over 500,000 as people were inspired by his vision. An influx of hundreds of thousands of people will inevitably bring in some dodgy people. But what do we say in response to that? What do? We just shut down the organisation? Do we not want any new blood? Does the party not want to represent more ideas and more people? And that's what, essentially the current Labour Party is doing. Now, in all of this context, Corbyn still improved the process. More people under his leadership were suspended or expelled at the same time as the Labour bureaucracy frustrated the process, with some using it as a weapon. Now, I don't need to go through the whole story again. We know what happened, and then Keir Starmer used Corbyn and the membership to get elected, and then turned around and essentially went on a mass purge. Now, there are many who are afraid to call out the nuances of anti-Semitism. Now, let me be clear. Anti-Semitism itself is a nuance. It's racist. If you're being anti-Semitic, you are a racist. What I mean by nuance is how it's applied and where it comes from. So, I think there are people who are afraid to call that out and would rather avoid scrutiny from the media if they were to just simply put it all on Jeremy Corbyn or put it all on socialists, silence the dissent on the state of Israel in a way to hide anti-Semitism under the rug. They're taking the easy option, essentially. Then for the mainstream media, who have an appallingly shocking record on racism, this is apparently good enough. But it's not good for the Jewish community, especially if you are on the left, especially if you feel strongly about the plight of Palestinians. Now, it's not like the party has been replaced by brand new people who represent a clean break from the party's history with a wholly different perspective. No, it's just that the right of the party took back control of it, the same faction that supported so many wars, the same faction that supported the Iraq War, which included many deaths, hundreds of thousands of deaths of brown people. So essentially, when it comes to racism, we have the worst aspects of Labour at the helm. That's why all of this is a facade, because racism hasn't been solved. Now, instead, the hierarchy of racism has increased, because there are some people who completely ignored anti-black racism. Some of those lot bullied Diane Abbott, who is the most abused MP in the entire country. The last leadership dared to speak up more on anti-black racism and actually engaged in the community. They also, for the first time in the party's history, didn't make Palestinians feel invisible. So back to anti-Semitism, some of us on the left will call out our own. As I said, just because we're left-wing doesn't mean we're all automatically anti-racists. But where is the humility from these lot in charge? Have they ever said they got it wrong? Have they looked inwards at all? No, of course not. But they're very quick to lecture. The worst faction to tackle racism in Labour are now the apparent gatekeepers of moral authority. The media is utterly blind to it, and it is completely messed up.